Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. I'm your host, Tone, aka Mr. Still Not Worried, joined by my fellow co-hosts, my brothers, Miles, Greg. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good, man. We got a lot to talk about. The draft eve, so hopefully people can enjoy this podcast. So when the clips come out, they actually bother to watch the entire clip instead of watching the first 5 seconds and having some smart stuff to say in the comments.
Yeah, for those that end up watching this, we're referencing. It was a post that was made that said that Austin Reeves could possibly have the same trajectory as Jalen Brunson, and Knicks fans said, "Leave Jalen alone. He's not him." Completely missed what was said, but we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Yo, let's make sure that you let the algorithm know to push this out to the masses. The way that you do that is you like, share, comment. Make sure you rate us 5 stars. If you're listening to this on streaming platforms, we're trying to be here for a good time and a long time. Hopping straight into it. NFL draft, like Greg alluded to, is tomorrow. Great time to be alive. It's been a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of rumors, and this is going to happen. This player is going to drop. Before the draft started, after the college football season ended, Deion was talking big game. We're not sending Shedeur to this team. We're not sending him to that team. But he's singing a different tune recent days. Do you think that there is some truth to the Shedeur dropping out of the first round, which is causing Deion and Shedeur to sing a different tune?
I think it could be smoke. I mean, it's hard to believe much of what you're hearing now because it's a lot of teams trying to, coerce other teams into passing on somebody so they drop to them. So I can see Shedeur falling into the back half of the first round. But it's just funny how the tune has changed since a lot of teams are backing off of him a little bit. And, that report that GM put out or that anonymous report from that GM. It's crazy to hear that right before the draft. It feels out of place, and I don't know why that guy felt the need to do it the day before the draft, saying how he's bad in the interviews, this and that. I mean, what good does that do for anybody at this stage? But I think, Shedeur is probably not going in the top 10, maybe not even the top 25. Like, if the Giants really want him, they could probably trade into the first round and get him in the back half, or Dart or somebody. But he's going to be available there at 21 probably for the Steelers if they want him. But again, his stock it's taken a hit since January.
I think I think Shedeur's physical limitations are the reason why he's falling. Obviously, right? The lack of elite traits that these guys look for are arm strength, incredible mobility, incredible processing and ability to throw in anticipation. I think people kind of watch this film and realize he doesn't throw with as much anticipation as people think he does. And that's fine. But the question is about Deion and the way they handled his potential draft status, right? His potential draft eligibility, and talking about it and going on Wallow's podcast and saying, hey, there's certain there's certain places, there's certain states, there's certain teams where if they're looking to draft him, we're gonna make a call. That's what he said, something along those lines. And the mismanagement, when you don't have like those traits we're talking about that I just went through, and your dad is Deion Sanders and he's out here talking a big game, talking about how you won't go to certain places, how he literally said they're going to pull an Eli under certain circumstances. It doesn't help you. Like you definitely didn't need him to say that. You didn't need to talk a big game, right? It's obviously Shedeur is very confident on the field. You're right. He borderline cocky, but that's okay, right? Most of the time he backed up in college football, so that's fine. And that's the way his dad was. But at the same time, like, again, you need to be really, really good to justify those kind of conversations. I mean, think about Caleb Williams, the undoubted number 1 pick in last year's class, and you never heard that kind of conversation from him. ever. Right? At any point that he never made it seem like he wasn't going to the Bears. He never made it seem like there were certain places he didn't want to play at any point. So for Shedeur to go out there, or for his father to go out there and talk that big game on his behalf, I definitely think it plays a role in the perception of him and the narrative surrounding him, and the fact that we're in a situation now where he's going to fall at the first round. I do believe that. I do think it's not just football stuff. I don't think it's on. I do think it's mainly that. It's 95% football reasoning, but it's also like the other 5%, like what comes with him. Like for the player that we're getting, what comes with him. And I'm not saying that Deion will give anybody a hard time, but it creates a perception that you are Hollywood and that you're going to come with a lot of high maintenance. And teams in the NFL, especially the NFL, aren't going to tolerate that. So I don't know, man. I think his dad puts his foot in his mouth a lot. I know he backed off of it now that we're in the process, but I think he puts his foot in his mouth. I definitely believe that. I think that you were talking all this big stuff, and all of a sudden when people ask you about it now, it's like, oh, well, we're just happy wherever he goes. I don't know, man. Pick one. And also, it makes me feel like there's some validity to the claim that maybe, just maybe, your son isn't as good as people thought he was, right? Maybe you believe that. Because if you thought he was great and he was the greatest thing since the coffee lid was invented, maybe you wouldn't, back off of that claim now in the situation. You wouldn't back off of your statements early on in the process. So I just, Deion puts his foot in his mouth, and here we are, right? It's an interesting situation with Shedeur. I do think he's in the slide. I think the Steelers won't take up at 21. He's looking at the end of the night getting drafted, or the next day in the second round. So it'll be interesting, but he's definitely not going in the top 15 picks. It's not going to happen. So,
hey, real quick, do you feel that this is a very similar mishandling of the representation of their sons with Deion and LeBron James?
No.
It's different. It's different.
No. Yeah.
But, I mean, because Bronny, I don't think he wasn't going to be a first-round pick. He wasn't up there for months and months talking about, like, top 5, top 10. Like, when he left, it was like, oh, my God, why is he leaving? Whereas Shedeur, it was expected that he was going to leave. He was going to go out and be a first-round pick, top 5 pick probably. But I don't think it helps with Deion doing what he did in the past, saying that we're only going to a select few teams. I know LeBron did that, Bronny did that, and I mean he got to where he wanted to go. But I don't think Shedeur or Deion has that type of power to kind of make whatever team they want to go to pick them. Like the quarterbacks next year are going to be better than. I mean, Cam Ward is the top of the top. He might be top of the top next year too. But after that, it's a real heavy downslide for the quarterbacks. And, I mean, Shedeur might not even be the second quarterback picked in this draft, if we're being honest. And, I mean, he's got the flash and the bravado of Deion, but he's lacking the athleticism to back it up. And, sure, he's got the skill level of accuracy, but at quarterback, I think you're going to need a little more than that. I mean, Drew Brees and some of these other guys who have lived off of accuracy, you can name a handful of guys. Like you're going to have a strong arm and a guy who takes a lot of sacks. I mean, if you're rolling out of the pocket, throwing off your back foot, you're not going to have a lot of zip on the ball. So whoever takes them, it's a risk. It's a gamble. There's going to be a lot of media circus that comes with it too. So I think that plays a part in who takes him and who wants to deal with that for the next 4 or 5 years possibly. But we're going to see tomorrow. It's going to be real interesting to see if – I don't think he's going to be at the draft. I think he's going to be
yeah, he didn't
he mentioned that. He's not going to be at the draft. But it's good that he's not going to be at the draft. He could be waiting there until Friday. So
sometimes there's intel that you have intel that you're not going to go first round. Sometimes that might be the reason why. I know he always had it planned, so it's unlikely. But yeah, the handling isn't the same. LeBron was never that arrogant when it came to Bronny. Was he arrogant? Yes, when he said that Bronny's better than some NBA players right now. Yeah, that was arrogance. But to suggest, and I know you're not suggesting, but for anyone to suggest that this is the same, or that the way that Deion's mismanaged Shedeur is the same as LeBron. It's not quite the same. I think Deion had a stronger leg to stand on if you wanted to talk crazy. Shedeur was playing great football over at Colorado, and he has a great track record in college. He does, but there are some things that hurt Shedeur. It's Pat Shermer running the offense, running this really dink and dunk offense with a million screen passes. Teams are going to hold that against you. It's underthrowing the deep ball sometimes, which I didn't see as much when you watch it on TV, but obviously when you go back and watch the film, there are some balls and guys that come back to the football. It did happen a little bit. So, I think there are some questions about Shedeur that are legitimate, but if you're, in terms of the comparison between two situations with Bronny and him, I don't think it's even remotely close just because Shedeur has a better leg to stand on, a better resume. And that's not Bronny's fault because Bronny's heart stopped. So you can't hold that against the kid, right? But I think they both were arrogant, and I think that parents need to stop overestimating the abilities of their children and just approach this thing with humility, no matter how good your kid may be. And that happens at every level. I see it all the time. I could tell you an example right now that just happened to me tonight. I'm a parent overestimating a kid's ability. It just happened. Telling me he should play all game, but he got flat ass feet. You see, it's that type of stuff.
Chill, coach.
Hey man, obviously, Shedeur had a conversation with Griff. Talked to Griff and was like, "I'm not going to be at the draft." Griff let him know. All of his sources said you not being drafted in the first round, so he ain't going to be there. But there's going to be some picks. We've heard a bunch of different rumors of what the order is going to be in the top 3. We've heard rumors of teams trading in to get this player, to get that player. With this season, as Greg calls it, it's lion season. For y'all, what are your surefire predictions that you think actually happens for the draft, whether we're talking first round or in the later rounds?
The Giants come out with a quarterback on day one.
That's a surefire prediction. Surefire. Ooh,
I mean,
you got some stones. You got some stones on you.
I mean, they got a very small window to do something here. Like Dable and Shane are on their last leg here. So if they like a quarterback, if they like Dart, you move up. You don't let the Browns get them at 33. You got to jump over one of those teams that could possibly take them.
Well, before we move on, I think you might move on. I don't know. And before we do that, I just want to say the conversation that those guys are having is, hey, if we like Jackson Dart enough to take him at 25, we should take him at 3. If we like Shedeur Sanders enough to take him at 27 or 21 or 17, we should take him at 3 to guarantee that we get a quarterback out of this first round with that 5th-year option that protects us. That's the discussion they're having, which is why there's been a little bit of that. Oh, well, we think the Giants might go in a different direction and not take Abdul Carter. I'll just say this: the lock, in my opinion, is the Giants take Abdul Carter at 3.
Yeah.
I don't think, or Travis Hunter, whichever way it boils down. But they're going to take one of those two blue chippers because there are only 3 blue chippers in the entire class. It's Travis Hunter, it's Abdul Carter, it's Ashton Genty. That's it. There's only 3 blue chippers, like gold jacket type of prospects in this class, and usually there could be more. Right. So I think they'll do that. I don't mean to hijack, what you were saying, but I just feel like that's the conversation that's being had right now over there. So I do think they'll trade back into the first round, but it's not a slam dunk. And if they miss and they don't trade back into the first round to get Jackson Dart, who we're hearing they love, there have been 3 or 4 mock drafts tonight where Jackson Dart is the guy the Giants traded for, like out of nowhere. The smoke is very, very strong about Jackson Dart to the Giants. And that Daboll prefers Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. I can believe that. But, if you miss on that guy, you might lose your job. You might get fired.
They'll lose their job anyway. So
I
do
think that Dart in the first round or Sanders in the first round, or whoever they talk themselves into, I think that protects them a little bit. Because you can sell them on like, yo, we got this guy. Like while you watched him in the preseason, he balled out for 4 quarters. You know what I mean? And he also balled out in the back end of a blowout loss. Maybe he played him a couple of times. He looked great. Like Mara, we see what we're cooking up here, and we got all these assets. We got the best D line in football with Abdul Carter. Like they could sell him on things, but you have to have a quarterback. Abdul Carter alone doesn't save you.
I do think that Mara's going to want to see whoever's picked a lot sooner than probably Shane or Dable would put him out there.
I think he'll be patient. I think Mara gets a bad rap with people about his patience, man. I don't think Mara's involved in the decision making at all. I think Mara let them trade Saquon away, and he didn't want, or excuse me, lose Saquon for nothing. They let him walk. They let this Shane let that guy walk. I just don't think that Mara is heavily involved. If he was, guess what? Saquon would be running for the Giants right now, playing for the Giants, and he'd be mediocre as we were before with Saquon on the football team.
Well, hey, after next year, they'll be saying Shane, because he's out of here, baby. He's out of here. So,
all right. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I think any other locks that you have in mind. I think for me, Ashton Genty is gonna be a top 5 pick in this class.
5? You think?
I don't think he's going past 5. I think Jacksonville could pick him. I think there's real smoke about that as well. I think these teams are looking to trade up for a guy like him, and I think that is very much in the cards for Ashton Genty to go early. Like I said, he's one of the 3 blue chippers in the class. There's a bit of a tax for blue chippers now in this year's draft class, so he's going to be elevated to a place where he wouldn't typically be. But because again, like there aren't many guys that are great, any prospects that are great, and many prospects that people have consensus on, I think that guy's going to get bumped up and he's going to be a top 5 pick in this year's class. I do see that happening.
That'd be criminal. If the Jaguars take him at 5 with all the help that they need on the offensive line to protect.
How many great offensive linemen are there in this class, though? Will Campbell's the best one. Yeah,
you got Banks from Texas.
I don't hear guys drooling about these guys.
Huh?
Okay. I don't hear guys drooling about these offensive tackles. If there's a run on offensive tackles early, it'd be a surprise to me because I don't see them mocked early, and I don't hear a whole lot of buzz about them either, besides Campbell. And then like Connerly and some of the other guys later in the first round, second round, or whatever. I don't think
there's gonna be like 5 or 6 tackles taken in the first round.
Probably back in. In the top 10? You could justify it?
I say at least 3 in the top 10.
Okay, I know you're wrong. You want to know how I know you're wrong? Because I have been hearing all day that people don't think that Will Campbell is even worth a top 5 selection in this class. People don't feel like that's a good place to draft him for the Patriots, where he's mocked to go. And so that's why I think there's going to be a slide on those guys, and they're going to go back in. That's just me. I don't think you're going to see a run on tackles until 15. 14 maybe. I think that's going to happen. Guys like Tet and those guys are going to go faster than you think because there's just not that many like great prospects in this class. That's what we're all hearing. There's guys who are starter level. There are guys who are they're good, they're cute, but they ain't going to change your franchise upon arrival. They're not going to alter the trajectory of your football team because you added them. Except for 3 guys that could do that potentially. It's just me. That's just me.
You won't owe me Yo, you still never got me my Chick-fil-A from all this time. So look, if I'm wrong, if tackles don't go in the first top 10, then your debt is cleared.
My debt is clear. My debt's already cleared. You want to know why my debt's already cleared?
How is it cleared?
Because last year, what'd you tell me? Last year, run the clip. Last year, you said, I said Brian Thomas Jr. should be a top 10 pick in this draft. He's one of the best wide receivers in this class. And you said, you think that 3 wide receivers are going to go in the first round? You got, bro, in the top 10, I was like,
I said 4. I knew 3 were going to go.
4. He's better than Odunze. He's way better than Odunze. He's way better than him. I told you, and I was right about that it should have happened. That's all I'm saying. Did he go top 10?
There was no bet attached to that.
It should have been.
Lay on your head, so.
Hey, it ain't my fault you didn't get Chick-fil-A yet.
Y'all in the same city now.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's not my fault. I'll make good on that bet. That's fine. Well,
what's the bet for this draft?
I'm gonna bet that 3 tackles go in the top 10.
And what's the wager? What the hell, you know?
Well, if if I'm wrong, then it clears your debt. But if I'm right, then I'm gonna take two of them.
it's,
One for me, and one for Jace. So
Get Jigs a kids meal or something.
you ain't seen Jace recently. Jace ain't eating no more kids meals.
that's
He knows well. Get you out of house and home.
Hey man, so the draft, like we said, is happening. One of the things that happened with the draft for all the rookies that come in, they have a rookie symposium where they teach you what to do with your finances, how to stay out of trouble, what not to do, what to do. But we see often athletes, coaches, GMs, owners at massage parlors, y'all know what I'm talking about, tend to get into trouble regardless. And they sometimes have the viewpoint that I'm famous, I got all the money in the world, my name is known in said sport, and I'm above the rules. Do you feel as a society, because I don't see this in Japan, I don't see this in Australia, I don't see this in England, as a society, as Americans, our love and our obsession with sports, have we created these monsters and thinking that they are above the rules?
I saw a clip on a podcast from Carrie Hilson where she was talking about her experience dating athletes, and she said that dating athletes is something she would never do again because they're not held accountable at any point in their lives if they're good at their sport, if they're really good. And I thought about every good athlete I ever knew in my life, and I'll tell you this right now, on a smaller scale. Like on a much smaller scale, I knew dudes that were good at this in the South Orange Rec League, like as an eighth grader, and teachers treated them differently, and everyone treated them a bit differently. They got special treatment in certain ways. They did. So could you imagine being great, being a top, highly rated recruit? You're incredible. Everyone wants to be like people want all the guys, the boys want to be like you and everything like that. I really do believe that they're not great athletes are not held accountable 9 times out of 10. And I think it's been proven time and time again. Uh, you wouldn't believe the comments on that post, by the way. People disagreeing with her, calling her all types of names. She's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. All right, like athletes are coddled in a way that most humans, most civilians walking around are not. They're not held to the same standard. They get special treatment. And I think it shows itself in a lot of different ways, right? And then obviously, when you make it to the pinnacle, you make it to the top. You're in the top of your profession. You're an NBA player. You're an NFL coach. You're an NBA coach. Whatever it may be. I think it's even more exacerbated at that point because you've gone years without that accountability. You've been able to slide, like Ben Simmons, not going to class. I'm going to answer that question in a minute, Tony. Ben Simmons not going to class, when he was in college, and Derrick Rose cheating on his SATs, but we don't really talk about it, right? Because he was a great player in Chicago and a great player in the NBA. It's crazy. And then you think about it, that has dire consequences because it trickles over to the way they treat women, or the way they treat people. And you see, Joe Mixon punch a girl in a convenience store, but he's chugging along, played for those Wildcats up in Cincinnati, and then went over there and played for the Texans and having a nice old career, making a lot of money, right? And no one really talks about it anymore. And then there's a lot of examples, right? And I think the Shannon Sharp thing is the most recent example of what we're talking about on a much different scale because Shannon Sharp is someone who's created a brand for himself where he's on. He's the guy who's spitting game. He's the OG. He's telling people what to do, what not to do. When guys make mistakes, he's like, "Come on, man!" This and that. He's not judging, but he's the first. He's commenting on it. He's talking about the mistake they made, and so on and so forth. That he's looked at in a different light. And he's highly regarded. Shannon Sharp is respected. And then see he's out here messing with a 19-year-old OnlyFans, right? As a 56-year-old man. It's a lack of accountability. That's exactly what it is, man. To be you think you're above the rules. You think that texting that girl that you would choke her or telling her you choke her over a phone call, you think it can't happen to you. You think that the bozos who get trapped by these girls all the time, it could never be you. And until it is you, right? Bill Belichick running around with some girl 50 years his junior. Could be a seed. He out here putting baby gravy in her. And we out here acting like that's normal and that's okay, and we don't want to talk about it. Mad Dog brings it up in ESPN. They hush him up real quick, hem him up real quick. You'd have lost a job on the spot if he talked about it, right? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing what society will allow people to get away with if they're good at something that everyone enjoys, right? If they're good at something that everyone deems to be important. If you have a lot of money, you have the same level of privilege that a great athlete has. Elon Musk is able to do whatever he wants and no one questions it, right? There are a lot of examples of figures across many different walks of life that benefit from this level of privilege. And it's usually tied to money or being great at sports. One of the two things. Or being a celebrity of some kind, right? So I don't want to be long-winded about it, but I just, like I said, man, I think, and by the way, this is the same, this is for women too. I don't think it's just men. I do believe it crosses over into women, and women think that they abuse the access they have to riches and fame and, notoriety, but it doesn't happen at the same rate for women, especially in the sports space, because women don't rarely ever achieve the same level of fame that male athletes achieve. Is that fair? I think that's a fair way to put it. So we don't see it as much. We don't talk about it as much because it's not as frequent. It's just a sad state of the world, to be honest. So yeah, man, I think if anybody, this, you can get jaded. This fame can get to anybody's head, right? And when Shannon Sharp was on his podcast talking about he putting meat on a girl that night, he doing this, he doing that, he has no problem dating younger women, blah blah. Look, man, like it creates a bad precedent. So, yeah, I think there's a really layered conversation. We probably do a whole podcast on it. I'm trying to be careful not to go too deep. We're going to cover a lot of different things, but it's sad. It's really sad. And what she said is absolutely true. What Carrie Hilson said is actually true. So yeah, I agree.
To your point, before Miles goes, if he has anything to add to this, to your point on the female side, it's not seen as often, and it's not, it's not a thing that we hear often of a situation like Shannon Sharp, or we hear a female athlete, whether it was basketball, whether it was soccer, over here and had vehicular manslaughter. We don't really see that. We see it sometimes here and stuff that pops up, like Sedona Prince from TCU had multiple allegations of physical and sexual assault against partners versus the men's league. We, on the men's side, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, hey, you know what? You good. We'll still draft you. We'll sign you to a contract, i.e. Greg Hardy. Sedona Prince, nobody drafted out the W. Haven't seen a contract yet. Typically, from what we've seen in past years, at least on the W side and some of the other professional women's leagues, when we talk about volleyball, talk about soccer, you're not getting a contract with stuff like that on your name.
Well, can we say why though? I don't think it's because women have this greater sense of moral compass. I don't think they have a greater moral compass than men do. I don't think it's because they're saints. They ain't the Pope. They ain't Pope Francis. I don't think that's what it is. I think the reality of it is if you look at it from a business standpoint, these girls, even if they're, look, if they were great, if it was Juju, I think she'd still get drafted, even if she had some crazy rap sheet. I do, because she's going to bring in so much money for the league, and she's such an exciting player that they can't pass up on that, especially in a league where they're desperate for that, right? But Sedona Prince, I don't see her hoop a little bit. She ain't gonna put butts in seats. All right, this is the situation we're dealing with. I don't think her teammates didn't even like her down at TCU. I saw a video of her dancing, and everybody straightened up real quick. Like they didn't even want to look at her. They don't want to see her face in the locker room. So I think if there was more on the line for in women's sport, if there was an opportunity for this person to become
the financial ecosystem of a franchise and change the franchise and put butts in seats and get new TV deals like Caitlin Clark has. If it was Caitlin Clark we're talking about with some kind of history, she still would have been highly touted and they probably would have drafted her because of what they can gain. Remember, greed is universal. Greed knows no gender. Greed is unisex. All right, it's all that. So it's polyamorous. It's everything. So everyone can get some of that. Everyone can fall into greed. So I don't think that it's something that is specific to men. I don't think you're saying that. I'm just saying. I just threw that in there.
Now, I think the difference is between the men and the women, like you just said. The big point of that, they don't see the biggest players fall into these traps in these situations. You don't see that from Maya Moore. You don't see that from Diana Taurasi. You don't see that from Mia Hamm. You don't see that from what's his name? Trinity Rodman, Dennis Rodman's daughter. You don't see that from these big time female athletes that they're getting in these type of situations, predicaments, to even have that be an issue. And of course, you're 100% right. If Juju, Caitlin Clark, Mia Hamms of the world, or anybody like that did something, I'm pretty sure they would make a little exception for them. But even on a better level than Sedona Prince, Shannon Carter, she's not in the league right now. And she's talented. But they say attitude problem. We saw the beef with Caitlin Clark, money bag, Caitlin Clark. Hey, we can't find a spot for you. You good. Kennedy's really good, averaging like 30 something in China. Can't find a spot for you back in the States though. Miles, anything you wanted to add to this before we continue on?
I mean, I know that it was basically about like the Shannon Sharp stuff and everything going on with him dating someone 30 years his senior or 30 years younger than him. I think it goes back to kind of like what Greg was saying, like how you were raised, how these star athletes, wherever they're propped up on a pedestal. I mean, we see it with like even like Anthony Edwards, the way he moves about his life. I mean, imagine someone like that in the WNBA doing that, where it's like, oh, I got like 4 kids. I'm not gonna raise them though. Like they would look at women more sideways than Anthony Edwards. Like I feel like some men are even praising him for, oh shoot, see, it's about time somebody stepped up to these women. So I think there's a lot more grace given to men in situations when some of the things that men do are way more heinous than what women have done. Like, who is it? Hope Solo for the women's national team for soccer. She lost her spot because of domestic violence. And she was one of the best goalies that they've ever had. But if it's flipped, that person might get a suspension, but they'll be allowed to come back and play. So, like, I think it mostly happens with male figures where at some point their luck runs out. Like Shannon Sharp's luck has run out. I'm sure this is not the first instance of a woman this young that he's messed with. I mean, he's talked about on his podcast that he's looking young. Even who is it? Tracy Ellis Ross said she doesn't mess with men her age because, I mean, it's so silly the explanation that she gave. But honestly, I've seen people say that her and Shannon should be matched together because they need some help. Like at some point, you got to grow up. And male figures in the NBA, like you could look at LeBron. LeBron would be somebody that at the rookie symposium, you're saying this is who you should be like. This is who your NBA career should look like from start to finish. Whether that's your high school sweetheart or you meet a beautiful woman somewhere out, not in a club, and you marry them and stay with them for some odd years, hopefully the rest of your life. Like most of the time, that's not happening in the NBA. A lot of these guys are passing around women like it's, they're running sets in the NBA. So it's not a good culture in male sports of how they treat women. And I mean, yeah, that's what I got to add. I mean,
You 1,000% right there. That's the thing. It's what you grew up on, how you were raised, your mentality, your maturity level. Some people look at Bron, say Bron corny. Hey, Bron ain't got no $500 million lawsuit. Bron ain't got to pay nobody out. Bron ain't got to do this. I mean, Kobe had to even give his wife a big old ring. You don't want to live that lifestyle, man. It's not as glamorous as is made out to be. You had something else to add?
I was just thinking about it, it popped in my head. I feel like just like how you hear like rappers say that they emulate athletes, athletes do the same thing to these rappers. Like they look at the videos, they look at who they're dating and the people in the sections that they're at these clubs, and they're like, that's what I want. That's fame to me. Like people being known like that. Like Future in the club, he'll have like 20, 30 women around him. But that's not realistic. That shouldn't be reality for some of these guys. Like that's why they're getting caught up by these beautiful women who only see you for dollar signs and not for anything substantive for a relationship to manifest. So um, at some point, maybe they'll stop looking at rappers like top tier human beings because these guys aren't like we talked about the other day. Like we don't know these people. You don't know these people. They could be totally different than what you see in a music video or you see in an interview where they have to act proper. They're not going to like threaten you in an interview. So, um, yeah, it's like a trickle down effect from sports, music. Um, yeah,
It's 1,000% correct right there. I was somebody that was guilty of that, seeing it in the music, what you listen to, the athletes, trying to have as many people as possible, as many shorties, and it's the age old tale of, oh yeah, you get as many people as you can, get as many shorties. Females do it too, but I'm obviously not a female. Speaking from a male's perspective, that's what the goal was. That's what made you cool. That's what made it. Oh, you really like that? You the man? Shoot, I had a family member that told my pops, while this man is married, he said, "You got a couple on the side." Pop said, What you mean?" He said, "Burnett men, we don't stay loyal." This is the type of mindset people had, bro. This is the type of mindset that people had. And as Miles said, like for men, it's kind of just like accepted and it's assumed. Men gonna be men, boys gonna be boys. Hey, Anthony Edwards telling fans that his penis is bigger than theirs. That's just Ant being Ant. That's just Ant being Ant. Look at the commercial. If a female did it, that's not the typical thing. And they do say females mature quicker than males because you don't hear females saying stuff like that. Like, and it's not, if anything does say like that, where it's just kind of just brushed under the rug, like a female, oh yeah, my boobs is bigger than yours. We don't hear nonsense like that.
Yeah, but I think the common denominator with men that act like that is fame too early. It's fame too early. It's just I think about Steph Curry and the way that he acts and the way he carries himself, and it's different than everybody else because he wasn't famous early. He wasn't famous until he was like a junior in college, a sophomore in college, right? When he had those runs at Davidson. As a high school senior and junior, he had no notoriety at all. No one wanted him, right? Like there's a humility to that. There's a humility there. So you have to learn how to be a regular person because you are a regular person and you are held accountable for your actions because no one knows who you are and you're not important. You're not self-righteous. You're not someone who's above the others because you don't. No one looks at you like you're God's greatest gift to the earth because you don't have the notoriety. But now in the age that we live in with social media and even before, right? Because we talking about Shannon, we talking about Bill Belichick, we talking about LeBron on the other end of the spectrum where it didn't ruin him, But that level of fame will more often than not ruin you, because the places you go, people will give you a free drink. Women will be draped all over you. Women will throw themselves at you, and people don't have the strength to resist temptation out here. So, that's the reality of it, right? And then, you also have a guy like Anthony Edwards who's just immature, and he was brought up in that social media era. He was, and so he wasn't held accountable where he was at. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy when you really think about it, but it's the reality of it is you are treated with so special, it's such a special way when you're good at something, when you're good at a sport, when you're famous early, or you're well known early. I think it just ruins you, and it's hard for humans in human nature to kind of overcome that and still be a good civilian out here, a good neighbor and a good person to other people. It's tough.
And that's really just sports entertainment. We don't see this in government. Oh my gosh, look at this guy. He really could be president one day. Barack Obama ain't get this type of love and fame or nothing like that. Oh, you're going to be a scientist. The kid at West Orange High School that Pat had a perfect SAT score from West Orange High School. Shout out to West Orange High School. He's not getting this. That's not the same treatment that he's receiving. And that's something that actually is good, something that has actual value. This sports stuff, it isn't real. It doesn't last. You don't get to play for the rest of your life. You don't stay at this level of fame for the rest of your life. The money doesn't keep flowing at some point. You have to get a job after that. You got to figure stuff out. That Dwayne said it on one of our recent episodes. Everybody is not Bron and it's figured out. Bron don't have to work another day in his life. Kevin Durant doesn't have to work another day in his life. Steph Curry doesn't have to work another day in his life. These are the elite of the elite. Some of the best players they still got Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal just greedy. But Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith. No, they need to be on inside the NBA. Well, not Charles either. More so Kenny. Shaq and Charles, they're good with all their little businesses and ventures and whatnot. But the fame and the money, it's kind of overrated. It's overrated. It really is. And speaking in the same vein of overrated, the Athletic did their survey that he do every year. And this guy has come up in a conversation on our shows plenty of times. We know somebody personally connected to him, but the players voted the most overrated player in the NBA is none other than Tyrese Haliburton. He said he didn't care. It doesn't matter to him. Do you think the players got it right? If not Tyrese, then who?
Paul George. I mean, Embiid.
Most overrated?
Most overrated.
Nah, Embiid's not overrated. Embiid's fat. He's not overrated. There's a difference. That doesn't belong in that conversation. Tyrese Haliburton being or deemed the most overrated player in the NBA is it's fair. I can see that. A guy who can't shoot off the dribble, really. I think that's a fair criticism. He had a quick rise to NBA stardom, but when you watch Team USA play, you couldn't crack a minute on the floor, couldn't crack the rotation on that basketball team. It's simply because, hey man, like you're not like great defensively. You can't create a shot off the bounce for yourself because of the way that you shoot the ball. You have to be set, right? There are things you do really well. You are a really good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. You are really good getting paint touches, getting and dishing the ball out, right? But that's really the bulk of your game, right? Like there's substance to your game. Like I said, there isn't substance, but it's not. If you're comparing it to the Tyrese Maxeys of the world, the Jalen Brunsons of the world, the Luka Doncic as GAs, I'm not taking him over any of those guys. De'Aaron Fox, his former running mate, I'll take De'Aaron Fox over him. I will. I will do it comfortably as well. So, yeah, I think there's some validity to that person, to Tyrese being the person they voted as most overrated. We can think about overrated guys in the NBA right now off the top of our head. I don't know that one is worse or one is a more clear example. But no one over, and I know Miles has typed. Tell the people. Miles has typed in Rudy Gobert. I never thought he was that good. so that's just me.
But he's got 3 DPOYs, 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's fine. Is that an award? Is that an award
They
people
don't
really
just
care about?
I mean, I guess they do give it away, but they're not supposed to just give them away. Like,
I'm just saying, is that an award that people care about? Do people care about DPOYs? Because I know I don't.
okay, so then if you take away the DPOYs that Dwight won when he was in the league, is he still a Hall of Famer?
Without the awards, you look at raw stats, probably, but DPOY helps. I just look. I mean, look. I'm just saying in the sense that the casual fan does not care about a DPOY. To be overrated, I think people got to really talk about you, and I don't think that people talk about Rudy Gobert. He was playing in Utah for crying out loud, and now he plays in Minnesota. Like, two places no one on God's green earth really care about. So if we're being honest, right? If you combine that with the fact that his game is not appealing, there's no sex appeal to the way that he plays the game of basketball at all, and the fact that he gets DPOYs because he's there as a 7-footer to clean up everyone else's mess and just block shots. He's not a good perimeter defender, and teams hunt him on the perimeter all the time. Like, what do those DPOYs really mean in his case? That's all I'm saying. And the fact that the history of the award, it mainly goes to guys who just block shots, right? Because of their God-given ability to leap and be tall and play with a good verticality. I don't know. So I feel like it's an award that's a little watered down, in my opinion, because guys who are great perimeter defenders don't win the award. And if they did, I think it holds a different value and different weight. It does happen once in a blue moon, like Marcus Smart, but it's rare. So I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Most definitely is rare, and I think to your point, it has from Dwight's time, even going back to when Jordan won, Gary Payton. I think it meant more then.
Mhm.
Now, I don't think so. I think it's watered down. Even OG Anunoby mentioned that it's a flawed award. Just point blank period. It's a flawed award, especially when you have the conversation of it's not perimeter players even really given a chance to actually win that award. On the flip side, most underrated was voted Cade Cunningham. Did the players get that one right?
Why you look at me?
Because you playing against him right now, you want to give him credit. I
Being
know. I
most
know.
underrated. I mean, he's the number 1 overall pick, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. I feel like it should be given to somebody different. It's just who? Like, is he underrated because he's in Detroit? Maybe. Um, do you have that list up of some of the other people that would? Because honestly, it's crazy to me that Cade would be underrated. I mean, this was always the expectation that he was going to be this good and be an all-star and possibly all NBA type of talent. So I don't think anybody's underrating him at this point.
So on that list, you had it wasn't like he got a lot of percent. So 136 votes casted, 8.8% was Cade Cunningham. The other names on that list, that's right under him: Derek White, Norman Powell, Austin Reeves, Drew Holiday. I don't know why Jaren Jackson Jr. is on this list. Lou Dort, Trey Murphy III, and Peyton Pritchard. Throw some names out there.
I feel like a name that's not on there is Derek White. I feel like Derek White is one of the most underrated, even though, sure, he might get credit from everybody out there for what he's really good at basketball, and he's really good at playing his role for the Celtics. And he was good in San Antonio, and it sucks for them that they had to, ship him off. But I mean, he's really shown that on any given day he can conform to whatever role the Celtics need, whether that's to just facilitate and play great defense, or he can be almost like a number 1 option and drop 35, 40 points to help you win. So I do think he's underrated. I know he hasn't made an all-star team yet, and usually role players don't make all-star teams, but he's one of those guys that is deserving of making one at some point. But yeah, I'd say Derek White, probably most underrated.
Yeah, he got the second most votes on the list. I think he was only like 1.1 away from beating out Cade Cunningham.
I'll say about Cade, the reason why Cade is in that conversation, even though he's the number one pick and he has high expectations, is because he's been slept on being in Detroit. It's not a sexy media market to play in. And I think people are not understanding just how good that guy can be. I'm talking about a guy who could be the best player in the world. I really believe that. Better than SGA, on par with those kind of players, like in that stratosphere with those kind of guys. He's that good. So I think NBA guys see it and see how great he can be. Not good, but great, which is why I think people feel like he's underrated. It's like there are plenty of number one picks who have not been those all-world superstar players. Cade Cunningham's going to be a superstar in the NBA for a long time and be battling for that top spot with time because he's going to outlast Jokic and some of these other guys that are a bit older. He's going to be a guy that is going to be in the discussion for best player in the league, which is why you're getting those underrated comments. And I think that Draymond Green said it too. Draymond Green said, "Hey, he's gonna bring a championship to Detroit." Right? He's a hater. So if he's saying that about a guy, you know that it's serious. That guy, Cade is amazing. Though. He's an amazing talent. I think he's going to be in the conversation with guys like Luka and those guys, like in terms of just
where's Draymond from?
ability.
Where's Draymond from? He's from Florida or
whatever? Oh yeah, so he's still roots to the Pistons. Give me a break, man. He strikes you as the kind of guy who has an allegiance to the Pistons, and he gonna say something nice about his home team.
He said it. He said, "I'm rooting for the Pistons in the playoffs." What? So
that's fine. There's scrappy underdog. It doesn't come from a place of bias. He didn't have to say anything nice about Cade in that situation, but he did. It's not simply because Cade plays for maybe the team he rooted for growing up. Cade is really, really gifted. Please let's keep it very simple. He's extremely gifted. That is a very gifted basketball player. It's the reason why I said he's the best player in your current series because that's where we're headed. And I think we have to accept the fact that that's where we're headed. This is a top 5, top 3 point guard in the NBA in the future. And so you really got that's where we're headed, man. I'm telling you, this is where we are. This guy's gifted, man. There's no good way to guard a guy that large, right, with that level of skill. None. And plays with that level of pace. And he makes the right play 9 times out of 10. That's a great player.
Hey, before we go into the biggest takeaways from that Knicks Pistons series, I want to ask Miles and Greg, because he is a fan of this guy's game. On social media, they have, after the most recent game from that Knicks Pistons series, they have been on Jalen Brunson's head of mentioning, hey, there was conversations of SGA being a foul merchant, but the real foul merchant is Jalen Brunson. They called him one of the biggest floppers in the playoffs right now. Is there any validity to these statements of Jalen Brunson searching for fouls too much?
I mean, he's done it before where he's gotten into these modes of he's too good to just focus on this. He's one of the best players in the world. So for him I know it's the playoffs and he's got a tough matchup with Asar on him and they're getting real physical with him. So if the refs aren't calling it when they, bumping him here and there, to sell it, sure. He's been doing a lot more of the head nods and the bobbing of the head and doing stuff like that. So sure, he's been hunting for fouls in the last game and a half, I'd say. But he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to do any of that. But I feel like because nothing's happening offensively for this team, he's trying to get things going, trying to get people in foul trouble, trying to do different things to maybe open things up for the rest of the team. I don't know. Because one, I guess we could jump right into talking about this series because it's a little frustrating that now we're talking about coaching and how to utilize guys in game 85 now. This is something that should have been worked on during the season. And I think Tibbs, this could be his last year. This could be his swan song with the Knicks, just because he hasn't grown as a coach. I mean, sure he's been this way in the past, but I feel like coaches can learn from their mistakes and grow from it. But I feel like he just doubles down on it. Like I'm going off on a tangent now. That's it is what it is. Him getting outboarded by the Pistons on in game 2, I'd put that completely on him just because you're leaving Josh Hart out there as a 6'4" power forward to play hard and do all that stuff. But he's sort of a net negative on offense because he can't shoot and it limits the spacing on the court. And then for Towns to only have a couple shots in the second half and none in the fourth quarter, I mean, sure, I was watching what Melo said, and he's right. Cat's got to be a little more aggressive and ask for the ball, like demand the ball. Like 2 All-Stars on this team. You wouldn't have known it on Monday that we had 2 All-Stars. You would think it was just Jalen Brunson, but Cat is an All-Star too, and he has this propensity to play small in the playoffs. Like this is a guy who number 1 pick, probably one of the top 3 greatest shooting big men of all time. But he just falls, he's too passive when it comes down to it in the playoffs. Like you got Tobias Harris on you, mouse in the house. You should be going at him every time. I know they're bringing double team on the backside, but still, you should be attacking that matchup every time. You shouldn't pass off to Jalen, and Jalen's got to do a better job of utilizing his teammates. Like this is why they made the moves they did in the offseason. So he wouldn't have to have this huge usage rate in the playoffs. But the Pistons are doing a great job. They're executing what they wanted to get physical with Brunson. And Cade definitely stepped up from game 1. And I think that's how he's going to be. He's going to probably dish it a little more, and hopefully the whistle's a little better in game 3 than it was in game 2. But I mean, you can't look back on a game that you already lost. Like you can only move forward and try to be better. And the Knicks, on paper, are a better team than this team. So they got to start showing it. They got to act like it. And hopefully Tibbs or one of his assistant coaches can help develop a game plan to, combat some of what the Pistons have done.
Looking at another series real quick, the Bucks are down 0-2. Dame played his first game in a while with the blood clot situation. He said himself that he was winded. Didn't have his Dame-like performance. Should the Bucks, though, as a team, Giannis, Dame coming back, Doc Rivers as your coach, Kyle Kuzma hasn't shown up as of yet. Should the Bucks be concerned going down 0-2, going to Milwaukee?
I mean, the series is over, in my opinion. They don't really have enough firepower outside of Dame and Giannis to compete with how fast the Pistons, Jesus, I'm still on that. The Pacers are playing out there. Like Haliburton pushes the pace, Nembhard, Siakam. They get after it. They push the pace, and you'll have like 5 or 6 guys in double figures at the end of the game. So Giannis, there's a lot on his plate to try to carry this team, and Dame coming off with the blood clots, hasn't played in 6 weeks. It's tough. Like it's not ideal to have this going on in the playoffs. Like you'd rather have him coming back towards the end of the season to get, some reps and get his win back. But you gotta move from here. So going back home, hopefully they can take game 3. Otherwise, it's probably going to be a sweep. I still think it ends up being a gentleman's sweep. They get them in 5, and then we move on to the offseason for the Bucks and how ugly that can possibly be. You want to add your Nets piece in here, or what?
I'm not gonna add no Nets piece in here. I'll say I'll be twofold. I guess we guys talked about the Knicks series a minute ago. The, I said it before the series started. I said that the Pistons are going to give these guys a run for their money. It could be a 7-game series. And I believe the Pistons have the best player in the series because of the fact that the matchup favors them more than it favors Jalen Brunson going up against a very talented All-Star Thompson and just an elite athlete. That's a real tough matchup for a guy who is a great offensive player, but relies so much on savvy, right, and not athletic ability. It's tough sometimes. A lot of times, athleticism can win at this level, and it's showing up a little bit here in the series. I think it's it's a tough pill to swallow, and someone's going to pay the price for the fact that the roster is talented. And I'm talking about the Knicks roster. It is going to struggle with this Piston team. Like someone's going to pay for that. Like whether they win the series or not, someone's going to pay for it. Just a reality situation. It's going to be Thibodeau. That guy's going to lose his job. It may not happen this year. It may happen next year. He's going to be the guy who gets the axe. When in reality, we should probably be looking at that GM a little more closely over in New York because you traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. And that was a bad trade. It was a bad trade. I don't care what anyone says. It was a bad trade. Did it benefit me? Absolutely. Please, your stupidity helped me. But it's a bad trade. It's a bad one because you got to think about how this is all going to shake out now and the fact that Giannis is about to shake loose out of Milwaukee. It's going to happen. You see how I tied it together? Milwaukee, he's going to shake loose out of Milwaukee after this thing inevitably goes bad and they lose this series. He's going to ask for a trade. And you could have saved those assets to package and for a deal for Giannis at some point. And you could have kept that same core, close to the same core from last year, and still probably gotten Cat because you got him for a bag of chips, considering the fact you traded Julius Randle. And so you could have done that and gotten Giannis in the back end, but instead now you hindered yourself because you traded 5 first-round picks for a guy because you thought it would increase the vibes of the team, and you were trying to recreate Villanova's championship basketball team. It makes no sense at all, and it's a bummer. And Knicks fans better hope that guy turns it around in the following years as his career continues, because he's going to re-sign a deal. They're going to have to re-sign that guy. You don't just trade 5 picks, 5 first rounders for a guy you're not going to resign. So they're going to resign him. You better hope his best years are to come in New York because it's terrible right now.
Money is just an illusion, right? Money doesn't mean nothing. This cap, this new
and picks don't mean
anything.
Picks don't mean anything. Is picks an illusion too?
I mean, you trade all those picks, then you got to figure out, okay, Cat's not going to be here. Maybe OG can't be here. Then now the roster's not well constructed. So sure, you could look at it like that, but I mean, you jump on a 3-and-D. Like, sure, Mikal didn't have the best year this year. Can he get better? Sure. He can get better from here. And that doesn't stop us from making another move for another player, whether that's to trade Mikal and Deuce for somebody else that's pretty good, and you move that way. It doesn't stop us from being able to make a move. I mean, sure, you guys have our picks. They're going to be back-end picks, whatever. So what? At the end of the day,
the spin you must work for the Knicks. This is crazy. That is you can't admit that's a bad trade. You think that's a good trade.
No,
you think looking at it right now in his face.
I don't have a magic ball to retrace time. So at this point, you got to move forward with what you did, what you got. So Mikal's on our team, whatever. It's like I'm not.
For that cost, if you're not going to get the problem with your logic, Miles, is that you're trading damaged goods now, right? Like he's never going to be more. The Nets got the benefit of trading him when he would be at his most valuable point as an NBA player. You guys don't get that benefit. So anything you trade him for is less than. That's the problem. Like it's a bad trade and it screws you twice because you have to re-sign him because of public optic. You can't not re-sign him after trading 5 first rounders for him. You got to stand by him now. You're married to him. That's the reality of the situation.
We don't know what happens. We don't know what happens in the future.
Oh, so you think there's a chance they don't re-sign him? The thing that has to change is him playing.
You can't re-sign him. You can do a sign and trade and move that way, whether that's sign and trade and add pieces along with it to get somebody else.
That's operating from a place of weakness if you're them, and I don't think that guy's going to do that because you really will get fired for that. Like especially if that move doesn't work. I think he has to hope that Mikal Bridges plays better when you re-sign him. That's fine. He might play better. that's cool. But I just think what's the timeline the Knicks are on here, right? Because this team has no toughness. This team has no toughness, and their offensive coaching staff it sucks, right? Cat's not taking shots down the stretch of games. I understand that Cat does that anyways. We get that. Cat is soft mentally. We understand that. But if you trade for him and you invest in him and you believe in him, you got to run stuff through him as well. It can't be, let's watch Jalen Brunson dribble the ball at the top of the key, call for a pick and roll, hope he gets to a floater, struggle with the Star Thompson, and everyone's standing around watching. It cannot be that. It can't be OG Anunoby takes more shots than Cat does. Cat is the second most talented offensive player you got. You got to feature him as much as you possibly can, whether he wants to be featured or not. That is the reality of how this thing works. If you're going to have Cat on your basketball team and they're not doing that, it doesn't make sense. It's stupid, and you're going to get fired. You're going to get fired for doing that. That's the thing that's crazy to me. So I think we've got to call a spade when you talk about the Knicks and the situation that they're in right now. It's not great. It's not great at all, but it's not dire either. They're just going to have to, what you're going to have to do is re-sign Cal, get a new coach, and hope that new coach can unlock these guys and have them playing better basketball. That's the reality. Hope you can blame it on Tibbs and that things change with a new coach that comes in there and gives you guys new energy. That's what it is. But the McCall trade is aging like spoiled milk. That's all I'm saying. It's tough. And I'm not a Knicks fan, but I'd be furious, livid, if with that trade right now, because what are we talking about? Like, Mikal, you're here, and all you've done is complain about your playing time, and now Davis is running you into the ground. Last time I checked, you have the second longest active game streak since that guy AC Green did it with 1,000+ games, right? Like, you love playing, you pride yourself on that. I understand what he's saying. I understand the nuance of it. It's the wear and tear over a course of regular season. We get that. Tibbs is an idiot. We get it. He's an old school coach. He plays like 5 people. We understand that. He's gonna get fired, but it doesn't excuse your play. You are not playing well. You're not knocking down shots. We cannot run offense through you. We're not running offense through you. And that's a problem for a guy who we allocate that level of resources to. We have to be able to run offense through you so that way Jalen can get a break, and we're not doing it. That's not acceptable. That's all I'm saying. I think that's a very fair take. I don't think it's me hating. I think it's very honest. I think a lot of Knicks fans probably feel the same way. And if you don't, well, you know what I think about you. I ain't got to tell you.
I mean, hey, it's hard to decipher the hate from the good comments. But no, you're not wrong. I mean, I do see what you mean with the Macau. It hasn't aged well this season, and it's still year one. These guys still have to try to get chemistry, and with the way they've run the offense, things haven't really been easy with getting that chemistry. Like, I thought when Jalen went out with the ankle injury a month ago, that these guys would fill these different roles and they'd get comfortable, and it would kind of gel like that. But it doesn't really work like that, especially when a coach doesn't take risks during the season and test out different lineups and throw different sets here and there. Like, Tibbs, he'll do the same thing over and over and over again until we get knocked out of the playoffs. I mean, it's inevitable. I don't think it'll be the first round, though, but I think it's inevitable that they'll lose because of poor coaching. Like, we could have won game 2 if not for poor coaching. The fact that we even came back in that game would have masked the real issue in that game, with Cat getting 3 shots in the second half, and him sitting Macau for that long going into the fourth quarter, when he actually got hot in the third quarter. He was hitting shots and had a good rhythm, but for some reason he's got this infatuation with Josh Hart. Josh Hart is, the Sergeant General somehow.
We know why. We know why. For an old school coach, Josh Hart is a coach's dream, because he's a hard-nosed guy, and they don't have any toughness on the roster. They have none. The only dogs in the team, the only dogs they have are the dude Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and I think McBride's a dog because he has to be, because he wouldn't be here without being one. Other than that, they traded away a dog. Randall was a dog. He was just a dumb dog. And then they had the other dude. DiVincenzo was a dog.
Hartenstein as well.
Hartenstein was a dog. You lost a
Hartenstein,
lot
we
of
couldn't do
toughness.
anything about that. That was the CBA.
Oh yeah, right. No one's blaming them for that. I'm just saying. So, but that's the reality. It's flawed. The roster's flawed right now, and they gotta hope that they can get a new coach and they can solve a lot of these issues that we're seeing now. They're not a championship roster right now. They have moves to make to get there, but I mean, Knicks fans should enjoy being good because, like you said, those picks are gonna be in the back end. I know me. I want a little bit more than that. I want championships. That's me. That's the standard I'd like. Have I seen it with my basketball team? No. You could throw that in my face, but they went for it. I'll give them credit for that. I think the Knicks got to go for it, and I think you got to go for it by getting the right coach. You didn't go
Yeah.
for it by signing Mikal
I
Bridges.
agree with
You
you.
get the
This
right
is,
coach,
this
and
is the first time we've agreed on something in a while. So
there usually the things I say, there's nothing to really disagree with. It's this,
no,
especially when it comes
most
to
of
the
it
damn
is
Knicks.
hot takes, but you're speaking facts right now. So yeah, they do need a new
Okay,
coach.
Miles, you agree with me? Okay, when he posts this clip, just watch the comments. Just watch the comments roll in. I'm gonna be an idiot online because of what I'm saying. Don't talk about my Knicks. Only positivity. Nigga, how could you be positive? They might lose this series. They might lose this series. They could lose it. Are they going to? Do I think they will? Gut feeling, 50-50. But that's crazy to say because they're way more talented than the Pistons are as a roster.
Exactly.
And you paid OG all that
That's
money.
why I could see a similar jump to the Cavs, where you add a different coach, a better coach that fits that roster, and they can flip a switch just like that. Like this team still won 50 games back to back, first time in 20 years, 30 years, but it feels like we didn't win 50 games this year the way we went into the playoffs having played so poorly against the best teams in the NBA. And it seemed like there were no adjustments made by the head coach in meaningful minutes down the stretch of some games where we could easily have won 60 games if, better coaching was had at the end of games. And that's the same way that I feel about this series, that regardless, in my opinion, I think Tibbs should be out of here. But I feel like the GM, the coach, the president, everything is so close knit that if he wins the series, I think they'll just keep the continuity around and move forward like that. But I mean, if I was rooting for a new coach, then I'd be rooting for them to lose this series. But I'm not doing that. So
I think we covered.
Out on the West, we got two series that are probably some of the most exciting basketball that we've seen so far, because a lot of the games have been some blowouts, but these games have been pretty solid. Outside of game one for the Lakers T-Wolves, Nuggets Clippers, also a very good series. But biggest takeaway from the Lakers Wolves series so far, it is tied now 1-1.
We talking Nuggets Clippers real quick. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Lakers Wolves right now, Nuggets Clippers.
Okay, so Lakers Wolves. I I think that first game was an aberration. Obviously, I mean you don't come out there and knock down 21 threes in what feels like three quarters, like the Timberwolves did, and barely miss any shots. And Nas Reed had the greatest game of his life, and Jaden McDaniels had one of the greatest games of his life. Right? I mean those guys were unconscious from 3-point range. So you're gonna lose games like that, and I think there was a lack of physicality that the Lakers played with in that first game. I actually think that's one of the bigger reasons why they lost is lack of physicality they played with on the defensive end. I think the thing that people have to note about this series, to really keep it simple, is that the Lakers, okay, lost game one because the Timberwolves had a abnormally great shooting night. When the Timberwolves came back down to earth, the Lakers won the game because they were more physical than them, and they were just better executing down the stretch. But the Lakers aren't firing on all cylinders right now. They won that game last night. They were up by 20 for a lot of that game with Austin Reeves not playing the way he's played during the regular season. He still has another level he can get to. And with LeBron still clearly trying to work his way back into a rhythm, in the rhythm that he was in during the regular season, coming off the injury. So you got to imagine that if they can get those two guys going and they can get this thing clicking with those two guys offensively, they're gonna be really tough for teams to deal with throughout the rest of the playoffs. So I think Lakers fans have more to be positive about than negative about, and I think you feel really good about going into Minnesota as well. I think Ant's immaturity, talking to the fans, and you know what it feels like with Minnesota. I'll say this and let Miles go. I feel like Minnesota is a team that has no leadership. I don't think Minnesota has leadership. I think if you watched that game yesterday, last night, you saw that they committed a lot of dumb fouls and they were frustrated how the game was going when the Lakers were beating them up in that first quarter. And you started seeing the fouls rack up on DiVincenzo and rack up on Nas Reed. And Nas Reed is talking trash to Austin Reeves about how he's going to smack him. There's no leadership on that team. I thought that Mike Conley was leader of that team, but I think sometimes it's really hard, and it's a lot of times in pro sports, it's hard for your leader to not be your best player. It's really, really hard when that's the case. It's tough to sustain that. And that's the case with this team because Anthony Edwards is a child. Anthony Edwards is a child playing this game at the highest level. He's a great player, but he's childish. He's childish. He talked about his penis size of a fan for crying out loud and got fined $50,000. He's a child. He's a child. It's really unacceptable. But of course, like we talked about earlier, we'll tolerate it because he's a great player. Right? It won't be cute forever. Just like Memphis is growing tired of John Morant's BS because they're not winning over there and because he's missed a lot of time because of his antics. We could get there with Anthony Edwards if he's not careful. He seems to be really careful. He's treading on thin ice right here with this nonsense. But yeah, they have no leadership, man. I think they're too immature to win the series. They're talented, but they're too immature to win this series. I think the Lakers can get by in this series not playing their best basketball simply for that reason. I don't think the Timberwolves are mature enough to handle the moment and the various moments where you need maturity to win a series in the playoffs. So yeah, I think they're lacking in that department right now. And I mean, a team led by Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle from an emotional standpoint. Good luck.
Like when Wendy said too, concern on the Timberwolves side, Anthony Edwards coming out saying that he was confused by the defense. And Wendy, as he stated, Wendy is not an X's and O's guy, and he didn't obviously play. We know, obviously, he didn't play at the highest level.
That's not right.
Obviously.
It's not right.
But he pointed out, it looked like it was pretty much a basic zone. Coach Greg, it didn't seem like we love JJ here. We love what he's done, but it didn't seem like it was some new defense that JJ Redick invented last night. He didn't reinvent a new defensive scheme. You struggled, and that shows also the lack of maturity on your basketball game. It's a zone, and the fact that we've seen it this year and past years, especially with the Miami Heat teams, a lot of players, and Bron has alluded to this, and other players have alluded to this. Bron says, I'm still able to play at this level because I have a higher IQ than a lot of these players. You telling me you got to the NBA pro level and y'all don't know how to handle a zone? At the NBA pro level, y'all don't know how to handle a zone. And to your point with Mike Conley, yeah, he probably is the leader of that team, but Mike Conley barely plays now these days. He's not on the court often. And that's the issue there too. It's hard to hear from a player. Udonis has talked about this. It's hard to respect and hear from a player that he's not even playing. You don't get big minutes. You're not out there producing. Can't really listen to you. Miles, anything you want to add to this Lakers Wolves series before we close it out with the Nuggets Clippers?
Rudy Gobert, just having him on this Wolves team, he's so easily manipulated in the pick and roll, and they're just tossing him around. Like Luka is smiling every time they switch onto him. So that's a big, because they don't have a big man on the Lakers. So they're doing a lot of small ball, and they're not really affected by the small ball because Rudy Gobert is like a non-factor when it comes to defense against the Lakers. So that's going to be an issue. I like how they turned up the intensity on defense for the Lakers in game 2. I mean, they weren't going to hit 21 threes ever again. I mean, McDaniels had open shots, a lot of open shots in game 2. They just weren't making them this time. So I think that this series changed once they won that first game in game 2. I think now they're just going to cruise. They don't really have an answer for Luka. Luka is just like practice for him right now. Like he's just working out, and that's great for the Lakers. Like Bron's just easing back into it. You know, Reeves doing his thing. I'm interested to see what happens in Minnesota when they go back. I want to see if Anthony Edwards turns it up in game 3, if he kind of folds a little bit. Because, I mean, he hasn't always come up big in the biggest moments in the playoffs. So this is your superstar. He's got to step up. And sure, you lost a great player in Karl Towns, and you got Julius Randle to show for it. And he had 27 in game 2, but whenever he has those games, it just feels so meaningless because he's like a net negative on defense. He doesn't do anything. I hate that. I hate him so much, but I'm getting flashbacks to when he was on my team. But for the Wizards, Jesus, let's move on. I'm like all over the place right
now. I'll say, I'm getting to a place with Anthony Edwards. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I don't know that you can win a championship with that guy being the best player on your team. I can be more definitive, but I certainly don't think he's going to win a championship in Minnesota. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think Anthony Edwards is ever going to win a championship in Minnesota. Just with the style of play, I think he's a great offensive player. Obviously, I think we all know that. I just think at the end of the day, the maturity, I worry about that big time. I don't think that he can lead a group. And I worry about just the IQ, like out there too, right? Like you're just out here hooping. You're hooping on vibes, man. Like not noticing you're playing in his zone, right? Not knowing where to go with the basketball and when, not really using your gravity on the floor to set up other people as much as you should. I think he does a good job. I think he's not terrible at it, but he can do better. I worry about him in that sense. He's a great player. He's fun to watch. And as long as that's good enough for him, I guess that is what it is. But he has a long way to go if he wants to be the intangible kind of leader he needs to be for a team to win the championship under his lead, right? That's the reality of it.
Well, that was, by the way, game 2 was his first game in 3 years where he had 0 assists. So, to your point, that is terrible game.
I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize he had 0 assists. What you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, Wendy pointed that out. First game in 3 years to have a game like that. So, to your point, there's still a lot of room left there, especially when we talked about the conversation of next face of the league. Yeah. People wanted it to be him, but there's still a lot of growth and things that need to happen in his game. On the other side, though, it's some vets over there balling. Nick Batum, Russell Westbrook, Jokic, even Porter Jr. had a big game too. Coach got shout out to Adelman. He got through to him. You got Kawhi turning back the clock. James Harden being consistent. What's your biggest takeaway from that series of the Nuggets and Clippers, which I think is the best series in the entire playoffs right now?
Kawhi can be unstoppable. Like they don't really have anybody for him out there. Aaron Gordon can't do it. I know they'll try to throw these smaller guys at him. That's not going to work. I mean, game 2, that might be one of his greatest performances of all time. So if that's the Kawhi you're going to get, I mean, these rest days are important for him because I know those knees were barking after game 2. But that guy's amazing. Top 5 shooting small forward probably of all time. Might even be higher if not for all the injuries. And I also think that on the flip side, they've got to figure out some, because there's not much shooting on the Nuggets. And outside of Jokic and Murray, I mean, you're not getting too much production. Like there's a lot of hard work being done by Russell Westbrook to get whatever he gets. And when Jamal comes off the court and Russ is out there, it doesn't look pretty. Like you can't have Russ out there. He can't shoot. You can't space the floor. So I think the Nuggets are going to struggle a little bit on that end. And then you're still asking Jokic to do a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like the Clippers, on paper, in my opinion, have the better team. They got a better team defensively with guys like Chris Dunn stepping up. You got Kawhi, Norman Powell. They're just a better team, and my hope is that they can handle this series quickly, so they can be well rested for when they play OKC. Because at this point, OKC is already in the second round. So yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Michael Porter Jr. deserves a lot of credit. He literally changed the basketball game by getting rebounds. Like it was like, oh well, all you want to do is score the basketball by taking shots and rising up over people. And he was over there able to attack the offensive glass in big spots. You can change the game doing little things. And I think that's the craziest part. I think that's what makes the great ones special, is that they're able to score at will when the ball's in their hand and have an offense revolve around them. But then also, like if they don't have it going, or just by habit, they're doing little things as well. They're getting offensive rebounds. They're diving on the floor for loose basketballs. They're giving their team extra possessions. They're doing all while being a dominant offensive force. Right? That's what makes it a superstar. So obviously, Michael Porter Jr. is not a superstar, but there's a lot of credit for taking the coaching and doing something to affect the game without the ball just being in his hands, right? And not pouting about it, which is what I feel like happens a lot with him. When the ball's not in his hands, he just kind of decides to hang out and not care. And you're going to end up on the bench. You can not care on the bench. That's fine. We don't need you out here, basically what his coach told him. It's a great series. I think the story of the series has been James Harden's resurgence. I don't actually think it's as much about Kawhi. I think Kawhi is doing what Kawhi does when he's healthy. He just isn't healthy very often. People seem to forget that he's an all-time great basketball player when he's healthy. But the reason why we don't talk about him that much is A, because he's as boring as a can of dry paint, and then B, as from a personality standpoint, and then B, the man, he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't been on the floor. We haven't gotten a chance to have those moments with him because he hasn't been out there outside of that run with Toronto and those early Spurs years as well. And then a little bit of the Clippers, but just never really has been completely healthy in his time there. So you're seeing a healthy Kawhi, and they're benefiting from it, and they're a scary basketball team because of it. And James Harden has hit his stride. I think this is more about James Harden, man. I thought James Harden was cooked. I'll be honest. I thought that it was over. I thought the weight gain was a little bit too much. I thought that his laziness in previous destinations, it just kind of caught up to him, and all the partying had caught up to him. He's done a phenomenal job playing his best basketball at a time where it's needed from him, and reinventing himself and figuring out how he can still affect the game in that way. He is an incredible passer. He has a high IQ. He's really unlocked Zubac in that offense. And then he's able to get to the paint with that floater, with that runner that looks like a lob he's throwing. It's an incredible shot as well. And he's got that speed ball working right now too. He's in a groove. He's in a real groove, and it's hard to guard that guy right now because you don't know when he's going to shoot it or pass it, and that makes him tough to deal with for teams. And then when he's shooting, he's making it at a decent clip. So shout out to James Harden, man. He deserves credit. I think he's the biggest reason why this Clippers team is where they are. Believe it or not, I truly believe that, because when Kawhi was hurt, who was holding down the fort? It was James Harden. So James Harden deserves a lot of credit. He's an all-time great player. He's reminding everybody of why we hold him in such high regard. And he's really taken me back and made me nostalgic about those years where he was an offensive planet, right? He was a planet. Everything revolved around him down in Houston, and he was incredible over there. And so it's hard. It's sometimes easy to forget how great guys are. That first year of Brooklyn he had was also MVP worthy as well when he first got there before the weight gain and the nonsense. But man, that guy's been great. So the Clippers are scary, man. They're scary, and they're a team that can, if they match up with OKC and them boys over there, they can knock them out. They can 100% knock them out. But I think they're going to win this series. I think the Clippers are going to win the series. I like their toughness. I think they're getting more consistent play from two stars as opposed to the Nuggets, who are getting great play from one guy, and then everybody else is just the Nuggets have one great player and then a bunch of Jags, just a guy. And Jamal Murray, unless he's playing against the Lakers, he's just a guy. And that's the reality of it. And by the way, tough one to give him that big contract there. I think it was this summer, right? Tough one to give him that big contract. That's not going to age well, man. That's a tough contract for that team to get over, especially in a small market where they have to sacrifice so much just to give him the contract and lose KCP and lose these shooters. That team does not shoot the ball as well as they have in the past, and that's why they're not as good as they have been.
Hey, closing off the show right there, real quick. Just happened about 10 minutes ago. Thoughts on Tyler Lockett? He has signed with the Tennessee Titans to 1 year, $6 million contract added to Calvin Ridley and Van Jefferson in that locker room for the wide receivers.
Not a sexy receiving core. I don't know.
It's a good move, though. I mean, he's been pretty consistent his whole career in Seattle. I think this is going to help Cam Ward because at this point it's foregone conclusion that he's the number one pick. So then you're going to have Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley, and whoever else they pick up in the draft because I know they're going to add more weapons because that can't be it. So it's a good signing, 1 year deal, $4 million. I mean, that's a steal. I thought he should have been gone by now. Like a contender should have picked him up, but maybe he sees something in Cam that I don't. I mean, I do, but
does he strike you as the kind of guy who had options and that he decided to go to the Titans instead of the Titans giving him a call and he'd been waiting on his couch for a while for?
I mean, sure, he's older,
32 years old.
Pushed off to the side last year for JSN and DK, but I still think he's got game. Like he's like 2 years removed. 2 years removed from like almost 1,000-yard season. So it's not like he just lost it. He didn't fall off a cliff like Ben Simmons or something like that. So I do think this is a great signing on the eve of the draft too. So maybe they don't feel pressured to pick a receiver very high.
Yeah, I think you add Tyler Lockett to that receiver room. That could be Cam Ward is one of his favorite receivers. Proven. Definitely probably can see 1,000-yard season. Like Greg said, he was on his couch, but you able to come to Tennessee because he stayed ready, so he ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.